Hello, I'm Dane, and the purpose of this video is to invite you into a dynamic in which, when we come together as a gathering, we can spend less of our time in infrastructure, in container, and more of our time in the poetry of the moment. This morning I woke up with an undescribable joy, and that being a less common experience for me, and a wonderful experience. I began to look around to how to hang on to it. Why am I feeling so happy today? And how can I hold on to that before it drifts off? But instead, I took a nice bath with lavender Epsom salts and beeswax candles, and spent some time with painting, with meditation. And what emerged was a container that has, I think, some capacity to hold this energy. Now, joy is a tremendously courageous energy because it's very fragile and it's ineffable. Joy cannot be fit into words. You can write a poem about it that conjures images, you can say joy, joy, but it is transcendent, and it's also fragile in the sense that there are so many things in our fears of the future, in world events, that are not joyful things. And so misery, suffering, self-pity, blame, these are they don't have a lot of courage because they're very stable. If you want a really safe, rock-solid identity, it's very easy. You fill it with boredom, resentment, blame, self-pity, and certainty that things will not work out well. And you will have one of the most stable identities imaginable, because when something nice happens, you can say, well, this won't last, and you reaffirm your identity. And when anything bad happens at any point in time, anywhere in the world, you can build it as a reinforcement of the pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being that says that everything is unfair, terrible, rotten. It's all these people's faults. And or if that won't work, then it's all my fault. I'm a terrible, rotten person. Just look at this. So it's an incredibly stable identity. And so it doesn't take a lot of courage. Joy, on the other hand, to see something beautiful in an ineffable moment, right? And then someone starts texting and talking about the stock market next to you, or turns on the news, and the moment is broken, right? And so I think it takes tremendous courage to go into joy, to go into a transcendent state. And so statistically, it's less than 1%. I would say that at any given moment in our culture, less than 1% of the population is somewhere near transcendent joy. But, representing the stability that so many of us, and certainty so many of us seek, at any given moment, maybe 70% of the population feels some, righteous anger, some blame, some self-pity, some inadequacy, some anxiety, etc. These are very, very stable things. You can just, what if that happened and that went wrong? And you can feel anxious and just look at that person exploiting that, that innocent victim, and you can feel righteous and anger. And it is wonderful, to have some sense of certainty in chaos. And so, blame, resentment, it's all their fault. I'm not going to let go of this. Regurgitating past moments. It's a wonderful feeling of certainty. And so it creates this framework where it's courageous to feel joy, particularly for no reason. And that is both the gift, the grace, and also the panic of feeling transcendent joy for no particular reason. Why this morning? Why today? How long will it last? What will happen? But within that context, I think that we can create a circle, we can create an environment that is predisposed to joy. And a lot of joy is in feminine territory, not female territory. There's a tremendous amount of, females at any given point that are filled with anxiety and panic and all of that. But feminine energy in males and females, spontaneity, sensuality, beauty, letting go of some of the structure. And so we're doing a little bit in any dynamic. A healthy, the point of grace is in the center, right? So everything has a certain amount of structure and a certain amount of flow, right? And the grace point is in the middle. But we have so much structure in our lives that in order to prioritize the flow, the grace in the moment, I wanted to lay out some of the structure here. And in doing so, it will be a self-selecting process, right? Because I don't know where you are in your hierarchy of needs, and the group may not know who you are in your hierarchy of needs. And also, I don't know, and the group may not know where you are in your hierarchy of competence. Your competence to pick the right environment for you, your competence to set and hold the right boundaries for you, your competence to communicate those boundaries, your competence to be in touch with your heart, mind, and body and decide, I'd like to participate in this, I'd like not to participate in this. And so it's important to understand that when you open the variables, right, what's normal is generally quite boring. Like in our cult, we'll catch a movie, we'll have a bite, we'll go somewhere, we'll go out drinking, we'll watch TV, we'll eat something, right? We'll go for a hike, right? Or we're busy, right? Well, that's a very small repertoire. And as we open that repertoire, we're dealing with the deepest human fear, which is the unknown and of being out of control that exposes us to the unknown. When we're in control, we're doing the things we always do. We're thinking the things we always think. We're feeling the things that we always feel. With the people we always do them with, in the places we always go. And not surprisingly, there isn't a great deal of new outcomes from that, what emerges is generally relatively boring, right? So we're a high depressive culture, and predictable. And if it's predictable, we're in control. I'm going to say this, that always upsets my boyfriend. I said it, he's upset. I may pretend to be shocked, but I know how to do that. I've been doing that for a while, and it's very predictable. But when you go to a place you haven't gone, with people you don't normally connect with, and think thoughts you don't normally think, and generate feelings you don't normally feel, and do things you don't normally do, for reasons that are unfamiliar, well, how can you predict exactly what is going to happen? So there is an exposure to the greatest human fear of being out of control. And for someone in a traumatized state, many of us, to some degree or another, who are feeling out of control of our lives, if the fear is pegged too tightly to the sense of control, in other words, I'm terrified if I'm out of control, whether it's a good out of control or a painful out of control. It doesn't matter. I'd rather be miserable in control than joyful and out of control. Then, right, the link may be too strong. Will definitely be too strong for some people to go into that degree of openness to the unknown, which means being out of control, right? For others, right, and there's an interesting dynamic with high-ranking people in power structures generally are most interested in being out of control and ironically punished. So you find that the leading clients of dominatrix type engagements are billionaires who are in control of everything in their life. And what they desperately seek is some arena in their life to be out of control, and in pain being a little bit more comfortable than joy, they hire people to humiliate them and make them feel powerless for an hour or two. But they're still somewhat powerful because they're choosing it, of course, and they're also in territory of suffering and humiliation, which is far more comfortable. It's far more familiar. It's of the family, and so. So this is in some ways a little bit more risky than that, to actually be happy, to feel joy in the moment. And so it is in many ways an unknown skill. Less than 1% of the population, perhaps less than 1% of the time, is in this state. But could we increase the odds, right? Could we increase the odds maybe 30%, right? So that rather than there being a 1% chance of us entering that state, there might be a 45% chance of entering that state. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about the container and give you total control with information, with understanding the intention, with understanding the container as to whether or not to step into it, right? Because we're in courageous territory. And then you can decide whether or not being out of control in those particular ways is right for you. So joy, spontaneity, one of the continuums between depression and joy is depression is a very tight loop of kind of generally mildly fear-based things. Now, it doesn't have to be deep fear. It just can be, oh, I don't really like that happening. Oh, I don't really like that. 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 I don't like that. You get the shape, right? It's just going, I don't like this. I don't like that. And I'm just a bit scared, all right? And I don't want to, right? So that will, you do that, 30,000 times a day in the back of your mind. And then you do that for a few years and, gee, I just feel really depressed, right? Now, the antithesis of that is doing new things, thinking new thoughts, letting go of the attachment that this and that doesn't happen, right? Then the circle dissolves, right? And, energy is trying to flow through our patterns. And so, if the circle dissolves, then there's all this aliveness that comes in, right? But, holding on to that depression. So one of the paths into joy, spontaneity, there's also very strong power structures in most group dynamics. There's either a free-for-all, right, in which case the dominant personality, or there's just a kind of a loud chatter about surface things. But one of the more feminine approaches is to find who in the room, who in the space has a high level of sensitivity, right? Attunement, connection with themselves or the group, right? And who has the greatest courage in the moment to feel joy, right? Now, that's one talent, right? The courage to be in tune, the courage to feel joy. As it moves into masculine territory, who has an impulse that they can put into form, an articulation that brings them joy, and that increases the joy in the group. So our culture generally revolves around rank, around knowledge, around money. And usually your rank is determined by how much knowledge you have, how much competency you have to make people money or to generate money. And so that is a huge part of rank. And so it doesn't, you will find, that you don't have necessarily very happy or very joyful people with that talent, right? And also because when we're dealing with money, sociopathic pattern analyzing is a more effective technology. Like you look at someone like Warren Buffett, the greatest investor of all time, quote unquote, and what one of his outstanding traits as an investor is having never made an emotional decision around when to enter or exit the market or what stock to purchase. Instead, he'll spend 3 to 8 hours a day studying securities around the world, say no 99.9% of the time to 99.9% of all the options out there, and then say yes less than 1% of the time to less than 1% of the options out there. And so, very good at saying no, very good at dissociation and dissociating from body and emotion, and instead following mental patterns. right? And this is a terrific trait if you're a military general, if you're an investor, if you're a bridge builder, or, an engineer, and you want the bridge. You don't just say, "Oh, I have a good feeling about this aluminum here. I have a good feeling. The astrology is looking good today. I met you. It must be fate. Here, put in this aluminum in the bridge." But aluminum doesn't have the tensile strength of steel, right? Fuck the feeling. Put in what's spec'd in the plans. Do the plans based on these calculations. Do it rain or shine. Fuck the feelings. Fuck astrology. Let's get this bridge built, right? And so there's a competence. And why do people follow someone like that? Because they don't want to crash their car into the ocean going across the bridge from the ephemeral astrology bridge builder, right? They want stability. They want certainty, right? And the person, I couldn't work in the rain and this, and so there are different traits for different things, but that is what organizes rank in many cases in group dynamics, because it's what has organized rank and leadership so much in the culture. So in this case, the rank is very, very different. It's the antithesis of the typical culture. Who's feeling most connected with their joy, with life force? Who has the greatest inspiration? I have this image of this and this and this. And that's what we follow. Into folly, into unknown territory, right? Because what makes joy a minority emotion so fragile and such a courageous act is in part, right? Like if we meet 1,000 people on the freeway, et cetera, today, et cetera, less than 1% of them are going to be in a joyful state. And most people are not going to be comfortable communicating that in public, right? Oh my goodness, I'm happy. I'll wait till I get home and, make some energy, some movement, some aliveness, in my own space, or maybe tell a friend, but I'm not going to do that in the workplace or whatever. And so it's really an underground act, a courageous act to feel joy. And so, but everything gets better with practice. At least the form gets better with practice, right? Opening up to joy, opening up to transcendent states, right? Gets better with practice. But separate from that, I have these visions, etc., but I'm completely out of touch with how long it takes, or I'm not in touch with how long this particular person in the group would take to understand and open up to this idea, right? There's so many areas of attunement, right? And in the areas where the attunement is faulty, the attunement with time, the attunement with the space, the attunement with the people there, right? You have disconnect, right? And disconnection is not joyful, right? And so it's a skill, it's a growing competency. But the orientation, the leader, sensitivity and attunement, inspiration, joy, and perhaps competence, right? Perhaps competence. And competence grows with time. So what are the territories that are also out of bounds in the normal cult, the normal repetition? Touch, eye gazing, laughter, the full range of feelings, sounds, movements, dance, incompetency is generally out of bounds. I mean, people will perform or whatever on American Idol or whatever, but you're supposed to be good. Art, painting, nonsense. These are territories in which energy can flow if the fear in the group breaks down enough, right, around the taboo, the uncertainty, right? You're not supposed to touch someone's face. You're not supposed to make eye contact. You're not supposed to be silent for too long. You're not supposed to just laugh for no particular reason, right? There's supposed to be someone in charge. If you paint, you're supposed to be good at making it look like something. You're not supposed to just have fun. So we're going into murky territory when it comes to control and predictability, right? But we're going into creative territory, increasing the probability when it comes to joy. So one of the things that I would invite you to do in preparation for this group experience is to write down three scenarios that are the epitome of joy, for you. Now, include in these scenarios. So what is a scenario? Well, first of all, we'll be meeting for in terms of engaging in scenarios for about 3 hours. So the scenario has that as a time boundary. Could be 20 minutes, could be 30 minutes, could be an hour and a half, right? But its container is 3 hours. So that's kind of the maximum size. So, and it takes a certain amount of attunement and adjusting for any group. If you think of a dance troupe or whatever, someone has a vision, they start to share some of the moves. There's a process of getting up into that flow, right? Finding that flow, right? And so that you have to allow some time for that in most cases. But what should your script, because that's another way of looking at this, your script of joy, what should it include, right? And we're in very masculine territory with the script. But what we're using the script for is to break open the cult script that will preclude most of a good joy script, right? So if 99% of the people, 99% of the time are not in a state of high joy, that's because the cult has a script. We don't look people in the eye. We don't make contact for more than X seconds. We don't touch people. We don't eat these kinds of foods. We don't eat them with our fingers. We don't have these smells in the environment. We don't dress in this way. We talk in this order. We don't talk about these topics, right? So there's a tremendous amount of cult programming in the script that is in the space, in the body, in the identity of someone from this culture. And you're using the technology of the cult to write a different script. You're using the masculine self to create an image. And it should be a detailed, a beautiful, a crisp image. Cover all 5 senses. Each scenario should have a script for all 5 senses. Like, for example, I love lemon essential oil. I hate perfumes that have, synthetic fragrances and tend to give me a headache, but lemon essential oil, rosemary lavender baths that are steaming, right? So there we've got touch, the taste of the smell, we've got a little bit of sound, but maybe add music in, right? and maybe add fresh strawberries, sliced like this or like this. So that's a little montage, right? So how do we do it? Well, we have to have the ingredients. We have to have the lavender, rosemary, Epsom salts. We have to have and then candlelight. So then should it be in the later, yes, at night, like maybe 11 p.m., right? Candlelight, water at like 100 degrees, steaming. Bubble bath, yes, no. Jets, yes, jets. Let's have some jets. What about a sparkling, fruity, sweet Moscato dessert wine with some Danish cookies and strawberries, and a painting in front of the candle like this, right? And so you're looking to bring together taste, touch, smell, right? And I'm bringing in bathtubs. That's not quite as conducive to a group, right? In this situation, I don't have a 12-person bathtub. So the script has to fit into the space a little bit, but it's good to start with the abstract, with in that sense of what I was doing just there, to create things that are likely to bring joy, and that is actually a scenario that brings me a lot of joy, and so that's one of my scripts. Every day I take a bath with beeswax candles, some of my favorite paintings on the wall. There aren't jets in this tub, but there are, lavender lavender and Epsom salts. And usually I'll create a little plate. Like last night I had dried figs. I had a delicious European goat Gouda cheese. There was crystallized ginger, sliced fresh apple, and a sparkling water with some lime and little flavorings added into the sparkling water. And then my dog sitting on the rim of the bathtub. He likes to enjoy a bath with me. And so, that's a little moment, that's a window in which joy can come in. But we're looking for scripts in a group. And so write a script that has joy for you. And write 3 of them. And the way that I would suggest doing this as an iterative process is, first of all, kind of write the 3 scripts that are just pure fantasy, that are not bound by, I don't have enough money for that, that wouldn't fit in a room. Write 3 scripts that have the most joy for you of anything that you can imagine. And the next round would be to highlight the feelings or the activities or the bits of those that make that feel so joyful, so alive. And then the third would be, what version of any of that could be done in a group? Like how could you choreograph? Like, obviously a movie comes out and they have special effects and they have, $100 million budget. And then if someone wants to make a play of that with just 5 actors in a 12 by 20 foot theater, stage, then, you capture the essence of that within a given container. And what if that excites you, right? So this is a temple of joy, right? It's honoring. That's all a temple is. We live in temples of money. We honor money with our time, our attention, our strategy, our fears. That's all praying to money. We honor and pray to our fears all the time. I won't do that because I'm scared of this. I won't do that because I'm scared of that. I'm going to do this because I'm terrified that will happen. That's praying to fear, right? And we pray I mean, I'm a huge devotee to fear. Oh my gosh, what if I do this and that? Oh, I better do this. Oh, do this. I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid. So we pray to fear all the time, and so the temple of joy is about praying to joy, right? And presence is usually, the territory, but we want to make room for our presence. We want to make room for what wants to emerge out of all of our anxiety and controls and norms and fears, etc. We want to make room, right? And so creating art, presence, being together, silence, music, singing, chanting, massaging, rolling around, laughter, moving our bodies, making sounds. Have you ever noticed that nonsense often has a lot more joy to it than trying to say something erudite? That's a terrific doorway out of the structure of language, right? And then try and have people copy that, right? No, you didn't say yum, right? There comes, of course, the joy of trying to fit into the cult of joy, right? To do it right, which has its own silliness about it. Pity parties can sometimes unleash joy. You may never have done this, but I was driving and this car was in my way. I wanted to go there, and then this other car. Oh, poor you! Oh, it's dreadful. It's terrible. Yes, I know. It was absolutely dreadful. And then this other car got in my way. Why don't people just stay home when I want to go out for a ride, right? Just the taking off the lid, right? Because we're supposed to be positive. So joy will take you into all kinds of territory because it's such a courageous act, right? And so, so this is territory in which you may or may not be comfortable. Well, I would say most people will be uncomfortable in the sense that it is bringing up the fear of being out of control and the fear of the unknown. Most people going into joyful territory will be extremely comfortable relative to the status quo in that it's a multi-sensory, nourishing, healing experience in the presence of someone, of the inspirer, right? Who is the person in the most joy in that moment, right? And so the protocol that I'm picturing will go something like this as we gather in a circle in a beautiful space with delicious, organic, sumptuous snacks, wonderful textures, magnificent crystals, ambient light. Maybe we'll light the fire just for fun, or we got this flameless or smokeless burning fireplace thing, because I noticed how much fun it was to sit around a wood fire in Costa Rica, and so I kind of took that little experience back to the Bay Area with these smokeless fire patio things. So we'll sit in the circle. We'll sit in a containment of presence, and I will see who has an impetus, who has contact, right? Because if you're in a temple and you're praying to joy, someone's got to be connected to it, right? If we're praying to fear, we're all connected, right? Oh, I'm scared of that and scared of this, and someone's going to touch me, and But if we're connected to joy, and that actually brings up one of our big paranoias right now, which is COVID. And so, the way that I would say it is that statistically speaking, COVID is pretty safe. You get a bit of flu or whatever, if you don't have a number of co-infections. If you've got asthma, if you're in a frail state of health, etc., then it takes very little to cause a chain reaction that could be quite scary. And so we're back to playing and praying to the temple of fear. But for 90% of the population, without multiple co-infections, etc., the various variants of COVID are not dangerous. You then have to look at your exposure to other people, right? And so that can be, definitely something to look at. But the reality is, I think that if the first vaccine was so effective, then why do you have to get endless boosters? And if you can still get COVID after that and the boosters, what's, at some point, when is bowing at the temple of fear more damaging to a rich life than otherwise? So my wife and I got vaccinated because we had to in order to travel, but we're not, in the whole endless boosting and all of that type of dynamic. But I'm also, it's from my research, it's not something that I'm as bothered by as I am with a world shutting down in fear. That's a big cost in my world. So what I would say is, come as you are, but be informed. Meaning, if you've got do not expect everyone in the group to be triple boosted or whatever. That's if you feel safe to show up with people, it's similar in a supermarket or whatever. People are in the state they are, and with the way that we treat our homeless people, the most probable sources are actually our homeless, and they all have to come into our supermarkets and stuff to buy things. So that is the way that is, but notice if that eliminates or deletes the opportunity or the probability of joy, which culturally it does, right? As a culture, we'll pray to fear constantly. That's one of the reasons we have less than 1% of the population 1% of the time, in a joyful state. But this is part of kind of helping you decide if you feel safe in the container, right? And so I'll go around, maybe listen to 1, 2, 3 people. If nobody's strongly attuned to joy in the moment, I will suggest some exercises, some protocols that statistically take people closer and closer to joy. If someone is in tune with joy, I will invite them to share that into the space, and we'll try and listen to who has the most joy in any given moment, in the group, and attune more to them, because emotions are viral in nature. And so if we attune to the person who's in the most joy and move in the direction of their thoughts, their feelings, their inspirations, statistically, our odds of entering a joyful state are much higher. So I'm going to make another video just kind of exploring some of the territory. And this is very much a co-creating, type of event. But I will have, paints and snacks and a wonderful space set up. And we pray with our time, with our money, with our priorities, with our trust, with our action, right? We pray with where we put our attention. And this is a temple, right? And one of the most important things of any ritual, of any prayerful act, is selection, right? So obviously anyone who comes to the group is coming to the group rather than all the other things they could be doing. So that's praying with action. And there is a cost to creating a temple space. And I'm going to put that at $30 a person. And so anyone there will be praying with money, right? That's how we pray, with our time, with our action, with our money, and with our presence and our attention, right? And I also want to invite you to peripherally pray with your dress. Pray to joy with dress. Don't wear synthetic fragrances, but bring essential oils that you love. And this is also kind of, if for some reason you cannot tolerate essential oils, then there's probably going to be some, right? Bring food that brings you joy, and bring that into the space. I just had an image. 99% of my diet is organic, but I love It's vanilla bars. So, one of those just flashed up. So I've got those in the freezer. And so, yeah, bring the things that bring you joy. And pray, bow down, offer, right? Offer up your stuff, etc., to make room for joy. So that is the intention. And what we're going to do is we're going to gather a group, I think 10 participants with my wife and I. It's probably 12. It's a nice number. At any given point, we'll gather people interested. We're going to do this on Sunday, late afternoon evenings. So one of my joys in the week is there's this amazing, and you may want to consider, the Creekside Bakery in Novato has an incredible staff, amazing food, amazing outdoor ambiance, and it's just a wonderful synergy. So I usually do that, for a late brunch in the afternoon, and then so we'll probably do this, around let's say 6 to 9, 6 to 10, somewhere in that period on Sundays. And if you'd like to attend, just fill out the form below. And once we've got enough devotees to the Temple of Joy, then we'll start hosting events. So thank you so much for doing the welcome circle here so that we can dive into joy when we enter the temple.